Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our hopefully relatively short video on section 4.2 from the Algebra 2 textbook, Solving Quadratics by Graphing. Objectives after watching this video, I hope you'll be able to identify the integer roots, solutions, or zeros for a quadratic or parabola, and also find the location for the non-integers, the fractions, the ugly decimals, and also use the calculator to get those decimal approximations. The first thing I want to identify is just some key vocabulary. We are looking for the solutions to quadratic equations, which graph parabolas. And so since, as we mentioned recently, that all of our parabolas are going to be set equal to 0 in order to find the solution, we're going to be looking for these x-intercepts where y equals 0. So these little green dots, those are the solutions. Now, they go by many names. X-intercepts is the oldest name that you've probably learned for them. Zeros and roots come up a lot. We say that a lot, and I'll probably use those pretty regular throughout this video. But solutions is ultimately what these all are. They're going to be the solution to a equation in the form 0 equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So the whole thing is we're trying to figure out what is the value of x when y on this graph equals 0. We're looking for these 2 points on the graph, 2 points where the parabola crosses the x-axis. Part 1, and you should have the note sheet for section 4.2 in front of you, and you'll have these problems. They'll show up very much like this on your notes, and then I will walk you through how to solve them. So if you don't have that ready, please get that, and if you need to pause the video, do so. With that in hand, we start off with x squared plus 6x plus 8 equals 0. And the first thing you want to do is type that equation into y equals on your calculator and press the graph button so you can see visually where those intercepts, where those solutions are. Once you've got that graph in your calculator, it should look something like this. And if you need to pause to get caught up again, please do so. You'll notice that if I look at the graph, I can see roughly where the two intercepts are. This looks like it's right around -2 or -4, give or take. And what's nice is the next thing I always do is I always check the table. So if you on your calculator will press second table, you will hopefully see that at x equals -4, y is 0, and x equals -2, y is 0. We're trying to find where this equation equals 0. It happens when x is -4 and x is -2. So those are our two solutions. Those are the two values that make this true, -4, -2. And sometimes it's that simple. That is the answer to this problem. X equals -4, x equals -2. So what do I expect you to do on the homework? I expect you to plot these points in the table, and the upcoming pictures will show those points plotted a little more clearly. Plot these points from the table, at least 5. Show me the vertex if possible, the point in the middle that doesn't repeat, and then identify x equals -4 as a solution and x equals -2 as a solution. That's usually all I'll ask to do. Next example, excuse the transition here. Type the equation x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals 0. So it doesn't show it here, but remember, whenever we're solving quadratics, we always set them equal to 0. So you will have to add the 4, that's right here, add that to both sides. So you'll have x squared plus 4x, plus 4 equals 0. Graph it, visualize the intercepts, and again, looking at our little green circle, you'll notice this appears to only have one solution. It appears to have only one spot where y equals 0. So again, go to the table, and sure enough, when you see the table, we'll see that y equals 0 when x equals 2. That's also our vertex. You'll notice, as we talked about on the section 4.1 video, or in class if you had me then, we only have the one point in the middle that repeats. That's our vertex. The other 2 points on the outside, the one here, the one there, that's symmetry. 4 here, 4 there, that's symmetrical. So that means this 2, 0 is our vertex. And when your vertex is the y-intercept, you only have one solution, and that's fine. Again, what do I expect you to do for this problem? Plot at least these 5 points. Identify that x equals 2 for a solution, and you're done. One more example. Again, awkward transition, but type the equation in to y equals, graph it to see the solutions, and you'll notice, wait a second, this one doesn't have a solution, right? We talked earlier, a solution only occurs when we cross the x-axis. It doesn't cross the x-axis, so no solution. Plot the points, graph it, and you're done. X equals no solution, and you don't have to do anything else. You do still need to graph it, but you'll see, doesn't cross the x-axis, no solution, all set. Pause the video if you need to. If you need to ask somebody to rewind it, if there's a sub, please do so. And once you're ready, we can move on to the next set of problems. These next problems deal with non-integral solutions. So again, these are when the answers are not going to be super neat. They're going to get decimal approximations, and that's okay. The calculator will handle it for us. Step 1 doesn't change. Type it into y equals. This one's already set equal to 0, so you just type negative x squared plus 4x minus 1, and the calculator will take care of the rest. Graph it, get a visual of what it looks like, and you'll notice, if you look close, my graph shows it really nice, and yours probably does in the calculator, it crosses the x-axis in 2 spots, but it doesn't hit a nice even y value. It seems like it crosses between 0 and 1, and then crosses again between, looks like 3 and 4. So we're actually going to use that to our advantage. I still check the table. I make sure, especially on the graphing calculators, it's really hard sometimes to tell if it's going to cross right evenly or not because those pixels on the thing are so big. But if I pull up the table, I'll notice y never equals 0. It goes from -1 to +2, which means 0 is between there. So I know 0 is between 0 and 1. And then it goes from 2 to -1, which means my 0 is going to be between 3 and 4. That's going to be really helpful because the next step after I've identified that is I'm going to use the second calc 0 function. So take a moment, look at your calculator, find second calc. It's the trace button on the calculator right next to graph and table. Second calc, we've used this before. It should look familiar once you get into it. We use it to find the vertex. Well, now instead of doing second calc minimum or maximum, we're going to do second calc, 0. Again, zeros, roots, those ones come up here and there. You press second calc 0, and then it's going to ask for your left bound. You set your left bound to be where y is negative. And so if we look back over here at our table, the y value was negative when x was 0. So you would type in 0 and press enter. And then you want to see where the right bound is negative. Set the right bound where y is positive. Sorry about that. And that occurred when when y became 2. So you would say x is 1. So you would type 0 for left bound, enter. 1 for right bound, enter. Then it's going to ask for the guess. Just press enter again for the guess. Ignore that. And then it will tell you the decimal approximation for where this crosses. Take a moment to do that, and I will explain the answer momentarily. Okay, so once you do that, you should get your first answer to be approximately x equals 0.268. Okay, and I'm sorry this isn't coming up visually, but it should be approximately 0.268 for your left 0. Once you've identified that, you just do the opposite. So now your left bound will be where y is positive, which we would point right here, where x is 3 and y is positive 2. And then where your right bound will be when y is negative. And that's when x is 4 and y is -1. The idea here is you're telling the calculator, I know right here where my cursor is pointing, that is the 0. Okay, so I need to find that point, and it's between 3 and 4. So look between 3 and 4 to find the 0. Okay, and once you do that one, you should get 3.73. Give or take. All right. That'll be the end of the first video. Next one will start as soon as you guys are ready.